Have you ever wondered why the smartest companies in the world, the ones with the best people, the biggest budgets, and the happiest customers, suddenly fall off a cliff? How did a company like Kodak, that basically invented digital photography, miss the very future it created, while others ran away with the prize? Today, we're going to unpack that mystery through one of the most important business books ever written, The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, and what it really means for you in today's disruptive world. In this audio summary, we're not just going to repeat theory. We're going to translate Christensen's big ideas into clear, practical lessons you can use as an entrepreneur, investor, or ambitious professional in a fast-changing economy. So, put your phone on silent, get comfortable, and let's step into the boardroom of billion-dollar companies to see why doing everything right can still end in failure. Christensen starts with a simple, shocking truth. Most companies that fail are not led by idiots. They're led by smart, disciplined, hardworking people who listen to their best customers, study the data, invest in quality, and focus on profits. And that is exactly what sets them up to be destroyed by disruptive innovation. To understand why, we need to zoom out and see two very different kinds of innovation: sustaining and disruptive. Sustaining innovations are the kind most managers love. They make existing products better for the best, most profitable customers. Think of a new iPhone that's faster, with a better camera and a sharper screen, or a car with a smoother engine and more luxury features. These upgrades are valuable, and customers will often pay more for them. Sustaining innovations keep margins high and Wall Street happy. Disruptive innovations, on the other hand, usually look inferior at the start. They are cheaper, simpler, smaller, more convenient, and often worse on the traditional performance metrics that the best customers care about. Your top clients look at them and say, "Why would I ever use that? It's not good enough for me." And that is the beginning of the story. Christensen explains that disruptive innovations don't start by trying to steal the best customers. They start at the bottom of the market, with people who are overserved, ignored, or priced out. These customers don't need the very best product. They need something good enough, affordable, and simple to use. That's the first key idea. Disruptive innovations begin where the incumbents don't want to play. For example, think of Netflix in its early days. At first, it didn't look like a threat to Blockbuster. You had to wait for DVDs in the mail. There was no instant gratification. Blockbuster's best customers, the ones who loved walking into the store on a Friday night and grabbing the newest release, weren't worried. But Netflix appealed to a different customer, people who didn't mind waiting, who liked the idea of no late fees, and who appreciated convenience over immediate selection. Over time, the technology improved. Netflix shifted from DVDs by mail to streaming. Internet speeds increased, licensing deals expanded, and what started as a small, odd model for low-end customers became the main way people consumed movies and shows. By the time Blockbuster took the threat seriously, it was already too late. This pattern, starting at the low end, then moving up market, is at the heart of the innovator's dilemma. So what exactly is the dilemma? The dilemma is this. If you are a successful company, the rational decisions you make, focusing on your best customers, seeking higher margins, improving existing products, will often cause you to ignore the very disruptive innovations that will one day destroy you. If you listen carefully to your current best customers, they will tell you, "We don't want that cheaper, simpler thing." If you follow your financial models, you'll see that the new, small, low-end market is tiny and unprofitable. So you pass. You say, "No thanks, not for us." And in that moment, you plant the seed of your own downfall. Christensen studied this pattern in multiple industries. One of his most famous examples is the hard disk drive industry, a world of rapidly shrinking devices where new form factors kept emerging. Each time drives got smaller, from 14-inch to 8-inch to 5.25-inch to 3.5-inch and beyond. The leading companies in the old size almost never became leaders in the new one. It wasn't because they were stupid. It was because they were focused on their existing customers who said, "We don't need those smaller drives. We want more capacity, higher reliability, and better performance for our current systems." The new, smaller drives first served entirely different markets, like portable devices or cheap lower-end systems that seemed unattractive to the incumbents. Meanwhile, the new entrants built their businesses in those small, low-margin markets. They learned, improved, and rode a performance curve upward until their inferior product became good enough even for mainstream high-end customers. Suddenly, the old leaders were outflanked. This is the second key idea. Performance improves faster than customer needs. Imagine a graph. On the vertical axis, you have performance. On the horizontal axis, you have time. Christensen shows that companies keep improving their products, often faster than customers' needs actually grow. At some point, the product becomes too good, over-engineered, overpriced, and overspecified for what most customers truly need. At the same time, disruptive technologies start at a lower performance level. They begin below what mainstream customers require. But over time, they get better and better and better until their performance intersects with the needs of the mainstream market. The moment that happens, the game flips. Now, the disruptor has a product that is good enough for the majority, but cheaper, simpler, or more convenient. And the incumbent, who has been running up the performance curve for its most demanding customers, finds itself with an overpriced, overcomplicated product that no longer fits the mass market. The tragedy is that during most of this journey, the incumbents' decisions all made sense. They weren't asleep, they were rational. Christensen emphasizes that management isn't about being smart in the abstract. It's about resource allocation, where money, talent, and attention flow inside an organization. And in big companies, resources flow to where the returns look most attractive: bigger markets, higher margins, and existing customers. So when a manager looks at a tiny emerging market created by a disruptive technology, the math looks terrible. The revenue is too small. The margins are too low. The customers are unfamiliar and unprofitable. Why would you divert precious resources from a billion-dollar business into a risky little experiment that might make a few $1,000,000 at best? That is quite literally the innovator's dilemma. If you focus only on what makes financial sense today, you almost guarantee you will be blindsided tomorrow. Let's bring this closer to your world. If you work in a large company, you might recognize this conversation. Someone on the team suggests a scrappy new product for a small, weird customer group. The idea sounds interesting, maybe even exciting. But then the questions come. Is the market big enough? What's the ROI this year? Will this cannibalize our existing product line? Do our best customers even want this? By the time the spreadsheet is done, the idea is either killed or watered down until it's no longer disruptive. The organization simply cannot justify betting on something that looks small and low margin. Christensen argues that this isn't a matter of evil or stupidity. It's a consequence of processes and values inside successful companies. Processes are the ways things are done, how decisions are made, how projects are approved, how performance is measured. Values are the priorities, what good looks like. If your processes are built to optimize for large, predictable projects with high margins, you will reject disruptive ideas almost automatically. Disruptive innovations need something very different: small teams, freedom to experiment, tolerance for low margins at the beginning, a willingness to serve strange customers that your main business doesn't understand or care about. In many cases, the only way to do this is to separate the disruptive effort from the core business. That's another central lesson of the innovator's dilemma. If you want to succeed with disruptive innovation, don't force it to live under the same rules as your core business. Christensen suggests that companies should create autonomous units to pursue disruptive opportunities. These units should have their own profit and loss responsibility, their own processes, their own culture and values, and the freedom to focus on small emerging markets. If you keep the new disruptive project inside the main organization, your existing metrics and expectations will strangle it. You'll demand high returns too early. You'll compare its small numbers to the giant revenues of your core business, and it will always look weak. So you'll underfund it, undersupport it, and eventually shut it down. But if you spin it out into a separate unit, the same numbers can look amazing. A $10 million opportunity might be meaningless to a $10 billion company, but huge for a small, focused team whose entire mission is to win that emerging space. Christensen also stresses that in the early stages of a disruptive technology, you cannot predict the final market with precision. You don't know in advance who the main customers will be, what exact features they'll care about, or which applications will explode. So traditional planning, with detailed forecasts and perfect business cases, doesn't work well. Instead, strategy needs to be emergent. An emergent strategy means you start with a hypothesis, enter the market on a small scale, listen carefully, and adapt as you go. You learn from real customers, especially the weird fringe customers that the big players ignore. Over time, you discover where the real opportunity lies. This is deeply uncomfortable for large organizations used to certainty and control. But it's exactly how many successful disruptors actually operate. Think about how personal computers emerged. At first, mainframe computer companies like IBM didn't see PCs as a threat. They were toys for hobbyists, students, and small businesses. The performance wasn't anywhere close to what big corporate customers needed. But over time, as PCs improved, software evolved, and networks grew, the PC paradigm reshaped the entire industry. Christensen's message isn't big companies are doomed. His message is big companies are doomed if they treat disruptive innovations like sustaining ones and force them to compete for resources on the same terms. So what does this mean for you as an individual in today's economy? If you're an entrepreneur, the innovator's dilemma is both a warning and an invitation. The warning is, if your startup succeeds, you might one day become the slow, rigid incumbent that gets disrupted. The invitation is, right now, you are the one who can play in those small, ignored markets. You can build something simple, affordable, and not good enough yet for people that big companies don't bother serving. If you're an investor, the book teaches you to look for patterns. Ask yourself, is this company chasing only its best customers, over-serving them with more complexity and more features? Is there a simpler, cheaper alternative creeping up from the low end? Are profit margins extremely high and protected, making the company blind to low-end threats? Are new business models being dismissed because they seem too small or not on brand? These are classic early signs of disruption. If you're a professional, an engineer, manager, designer, or creator, the same logic applies to your career. You can think of your skills as your core product. Are you only investing in sustaining innovations, small, incremental improvements in what you already do? Or are you also betting on disruptive skills, things that might not be valued highly today, but could become critical in the future? Sometimes the new thing looks silly at first. The early internet looked like a playground. Social media looked like a fad. iTools looked like toys. Over time, they became platforms that reshaped entire industries. Christensen would tell you, don't just ask, what are my best customers or my current employer, asking me to improve right now. Also ask, what emerging tools and markets are being ignored that might quietly become the main stage later? Let's circle back to the emotional heart of this dilemma. Imagine you're the CEO of a successful company. Your board expects growth. Your shareholders expect profits. Your best customers want better performance, more reliability, and richer features, and they're willing to pay for it. Every instinct, every spreadsheet, every meeting pushes you to double down on what's already working. And then someone walks in and says, "Let's build a cheaper, simpler product with lower margins for a small, unproven market that might cannibalize our existing offering someday." You can almost hear the board's reaction. Why would we do that? Christensen's answer is uncomfortable but clear. You do it because that's where the next wave will come from. You do it because if you don't, someone else will. You do it because the most dangerous competition doesn't attack you head-on at the top. It comes in quietly from below, serving customers you're too proud, too busy, or too profitable to notice. So how can leaders respond wisely? First, accept that some disruptions will kill you if you ignore them. Denial is easy. It's tempting to say, our customers will never switch to that. History suggests they might. Second, create structures that allow you to explore disruptive opportunities seriously. This might mean spinning off a new division. It might mean investing in a separate startup. It might mean partnering with companies playing at the low end rather than mocking them. Third, use different metrics for disruptive ventures. Don't judge them by the same standards as your core business. Ask, are we learning faster? Are we understanding this new customer segment better? Are we improving the technology in meaningful ways? In the early stages, learning is more important than profit. Fourth, protect the disruptive effort from the immune system of the core business. Established teams will instinctively reject anything that threatens their budgets, their status, or their way of working. You need leadership courage to shield the new, fragile idea until it can stand on its own. Finally, stay humble about the future. Christensen's research shows that markets for disruptive innovations are largely unknowable in detail ahead of time. Your job isn't to predict perfectly. Your job is to create the capacity to adapt. Now, let's pull all of this together in a simple way you can remember. The Innovator's Dilemma teaches 3 big lessons. Number 1, good management can lead to failure. Listening to your best customers, chasing higher margins, and improving existing products are not enough when the real threat comes from below. Number 2, disruption starts small. It begins in unattractive markets with products that look inferior on traditional metrics, but win on simplicity, affordability, and convenience for overlooked customers. Number 3, to survive disruption, you must separate and protect the new. Disruptive projects need their own space, metrics, and culture, especially early on. And if we zoom out, there's a deeper message beneath all of this. The world doesn't care how successful you were yesterday. Technology doesn't respect your history. Customer behavior can flip faster than your comfort level. The only real defense is a mindset, a willingness to question your own success, explore small markets, and experiment with ideas that don't make sense yet on a spreadsheet. As you finish this audio, I invite you to look at your own world with Christensen's lens. In your industry, who is playing at the low end right now? Who is serving the customers that nobody takes seriously? What inferior technology are people laughing at today that might quietly become the new standard tomorrow? And in your own life, what small, strange idea have you been ignoring because it doesn't look big enough, prestigious enough, or profitable enough? Yet, sometimes the next chapter of your story starts with something that feels too small to matter. If this summary of The Innovator's Dilemma opened your eyes, even a little, I'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments. Which company do you think is facing a disruptive threat right now? Or if you're building something yourself, tell us, what small market are you betting on that others are ignoring? Your example might inspire someone else who's listening. And if you enjoyed this audiobook-style breakdown and want more deep, story-driven summaries of powerful business and investing books, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next big idea that could change the way you think about innovation, risk, and opportunity. Thanks for spending this time with me. Remember, today's disruption is tomorrow's normal. Stay curious, stay humble, and never assume that success today guarantees safety tomorrow.